Good afternoon, NITians. I am Sridhar Muppalla, NIT Brand Ambassador. So now we will start our panel discussion with the emphasis on how to build a strong professional network and maintain it. We have a highly accomplished and diverse group of experts here to address on this topic. Surathkal and myself wrote an article last year on networking what, why and how. I think most of you have read that article. I sent it yesterday as part of spamming your inboxes. We got good feedback from NITians. Hope you read it. Most of us engineers are introverts and are not comfortable networking. And then general networking has negative connotations among Indian community. How do we break out of this mode? Since we have a lot of ground to cover and only 1 hour is left for discussion, I'll be asking one question to each of the panel members and then we will open it up for general Q&A. Thanks for your cooperation. Let us start with Ram Rai, who is the CEO of Yagnaiq. Could you please share how you help someone within your network or how your network helped you?
Okay, so as an entrepreneur, it's very important to have a good network. I always differentiate when you say networking. When you say networking, you network with your friends, your colleagues, or so you only have so much time in a day, right? So you should always focus on people who can really contribute to you, or you can contribute to them. So I always see, this is my personal view again. I'm giving my philosophy. So when you network or make friends with people, make sure you have something for them and they have something for you. So there has to be a value in that relationship. So then both can benefit, because that's how, like you said, you don't want to be meeting people, taking business cards. It's good, but it's not going to add any value, and you become redundant, in their life or your life yourself. So focus on people who can really add value to what you're passionate about or whatever. So I always look for people who can help in my vision, what I want to be in today or tomorrow or next year. So that's where I think, in both companies, whether IPCell, when we started IPCell, especially when you're an entrepreneur doing business, you have to have people who can help you. You can have good ideas, you can be the smartest guy in the block, but any business is all about relationship. How you build network, how you sell your ideas, bring people to put money, and bring people to buy your product. So, that's about yourself. What's your character? Who you are. People have to like you when you network. They should believe in you, and that's very important in any networking. So that's what makes you successful. You cannot be a loner and say, I'm going to do something great. You got to go out and be an extrovert to be successful. You cannot be sitting at home and saying, I'm going to do this, that. You have a passion. So for that, you need people to help you. You need support. You alone cannot do everything. That's why I think it's very critical to have the right people and to pursue your passion.
So thank you, Ram Rai. By the way, Ram Rai was founder of IPCell, which was acquired by Cisco Systems. He earned his bachelor's degree from NIT Surathkal. Now let us hear from Bhaskar Rayavaram, Vice President IT for Hudson Americas and Advisors LLC. Could you please share how to build strong professional network and how to maintain it?
So I'm going to address, you said what, why and how, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to address, can you hear me in the back? So,
Louder, yeah.
So I'm going to address about when. I think that's the critical part. When do we start networking? To me, that if we haven't started already, it should be yesterday, and it should be all the time in my opinion. It's an ongoing process. It's about a lot of times I've noticed at least people scamper around. Oh my God, I need to make a career change right now because I just did my MBA or got my master's. Now I got to go start building my network. That's like postmortem. Patient is dead already. And the point is, networking is an active process. It should enable us all the way through the career management or even personality management. And again, there is an aspect of personal branding in my opinion. And just like we're trying to create a brand for NIT, as a brand of a person, like you work for yourself, as people say, I'm Bhaskar Rayavaram Incorporated. If that is the case, then what's my marketing department doing? And if I address that part of it, then I need to look at it from the point of view that I should always be branding myself and focus my brand project forward and then say, here is what I can do. Instead of most of the time when we build resumes, it's a narration of history. That actually leaves the person receiving our resume to interpret what you're capable of. Instead, it should be the other way around. It's a projection of the future. So hence, that's where you're actually drawing people into the conclusion that you are capable of doing whatever they're looking for. So the personal branding aspect of it is very, very important in networking. So that's how you start it. Once you create a brand and you project yourself with certain capabilities, then you are out there attracting people that are actually looking to interact with you from that brand standpoint. So once a personal brand is created, you're out there and people are connecting with you. I tend to disagree some of the aspect that quality, yes, is important. I also think with the advent of all the tools and the technology that's out there, number is also important. If you look at having, say, 1,000 people in your network, and if you look at the second and third order dependencies on the network, the reach is like into millions. And I've seen some examples where people actually find third level dependency helping find a job. The beauty of LinkedIn and other forums in that effect is they all have these tools and people are all there motivated with the same purpose. Hence, there is no aversion in saying if Sridhar asked me to introduce a friend of him from his network into a second order or third order in my network, it works. Because the people that are situating themselves in LinkedIn and those forums are similarly motivated to help each other. So number is also important. At the same time, finding the mentors and the people that actually help you coach your way through this networking process is another important aspect as well. So what I've seen traditionally when I go to the networking forums, it's almost like people, I look around, they're all looking for jobs. They're all looking for some change. I personally go to those forums when I appear saying, I'm here, Chase is hiring 4 people. In fact, I tell you right now, Hudson Advisors is hiring 2 VPs and 2 AVP jobs around valuation and mortgage analysis, mortgage analytics and stuff. If you have expertise, let me know. So I go to these forums with the aspect that I have something to offer. And it's almost catches people on surprise. Why are you wasting time here? So to me, networking is being out there, being present, without actually expecting anything back. Just be out there. So there may be other person that's requiring help for it. And maintenance part, how you maintain it once you build it, is always going to be, as I said, it's a continuous process. It never ends. So somebody asks me, when are you looking for a job? I'm always looking for a job. When are you looking to start a company? I'm always looking to start one. Because that is the attitude or aspect that actually keeps the network built and then maintained.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhaskar. By the way, Bhaskar is a distinguished Toastmaster from Toastmaster.org. He's also a teacher and curriculum specialist for Manabadi Telugu language teaching programs for kids worldwide. And also he hosts a local Telugu radio station in Dallas. And he earned his bachelor's degree from NIT Warangal. And recently I was in a conference, I met executive vice president of a big Fortune 500 company. And I was having an active discussion with the executive VP. And nowadays, like in sales, at least like in our organization, she was saying like she will hire a sales guy who has minimum 500 LinkedIn connections. That's a basic entry criteria to select a salesperson. So things are changing, so people are closely watching, and there are a lot of tools. Before you come for any of the interview, they already know a lot of stuff, what you have done in the social networking, or even if you don't have any social presence, they already know a lot of information about
what
you.
Google says about you is important.
Yeah. Google or Facebook or whatever the social networking site. So there are tools which have come. So keep an eye on these social networking sites.
So adding to your point, so all of you today have 50 more LinkedIn connections now, right? If all of you go back and LinkedIn with each of us, you have 50 more. So you're close to that 500 number. Not all of you will end up in sales, but or want to be in sales, right?
Yeah. And even as a hiring manager, tomorrow you become a hiring manager, whether it is a manager role or a director or vice president, there is a challenge to hire quality people. So you need to build your own network in LinkedIn. So recently I invited eBay director, and he is specialized in security space. And he just advertised, okay, I'm looking for security directors. He was a senior director. And within 10 minutes, he got 10 requests. And out of those 10 requests, he asked 2 people to come for face-to-face, and he had 1 person. So how is that possible? Only when you have a network. If you don't have network, you cannot hire the best quality people. And when you don't have the best quality people, you cannot execute your projects in a successful way. And all this stuff reflects in your own career development. So, okay, so now let us hear from Sridhar Krishnamurthy. Could you please share how to build strong professional network and maintain it? And also, what is the help that we can do to you as an ITS?
Quite a few questions there. So how do you build your own professional network? So I was talking to somebody, we have social networks, right? We have professional network. So you have to be careful. You position yourself in certain bucket. Suppose you want to grow professionally, you put yourself in the professional circle bucket. And how do you grow? You already have, like today you have 50, right? At work, if you're working for somebody, you already have certain network. Plus, if you're working in a community for some volunteer, you have another network. So what you do is you build up that and figure out which sector you are interested in. If you are, say, interested in mobile applications or mobile networking, when I say the technology part, so you build up certain segments there. And there are a lot of, inside LinkedIn, for example, there are different networking groups. So you become a part of a group and not just have their logo there, contribute something. One of the things in doing a good professional networking is you give and take something, right? So giving, how would you give? So suppose you find somebody who is kind of aligned with what your interest is, you drop them an offline email, or if you know through somebody that, hey, this person knows this person, like he was saying about the security thing, you drop a nice email and say, hey, I'm interested in this field, would you be kind enough to be on my network list, and then I can share some thoughts. So that's one thing, and then follow-up is very important. So once you LinkedIn, I have about 300, last I checked about 350. Out of that 350, I do keep in touch with at least 25, 30 on a monthly basis, just pinging them, just check them, hey, how are you doing? What are you doing? What's happening in this area? And sometimes what happens is, if you're looking for a career change, you may find that somebody knows somebody and they know somebody, So it's like the LinkedIn increases, the level of your circle increases, and you could get some insight into something. So last year there was a recruiter, executive recruiter. He sent me a blank note. He said blank email, right? He said blind email. He said, hey, I'm looking for this kind of a profile. Do you know anybody? So I knew he was targeting me, but I didn't want to move out of this area. He wanted somebody in the Bay Area. So he said, if you know somebody, refer. So I knew somebody who was looking for a job. I just referred it to them, and they talked to him. So it was like, that's how you build. But main thing is, how do you maintain? How do you maintain is you keep in touch. This same thing in life, in your family life also. Kids grow so fast. If you don't keep in touch, you won't know that it's your own kid. When they're teenagers, they take their own, they have their own way of doing things. So you lose contact. So you have to be in touch, like you probably do. You have a chat with them once in a while. Same thing on the professional side. Make sure you have the connection. If somebody gets promoted, send them a nice note. Hey, I see you got promoted. Are you coming to Dallas? Can we have a cup of coffee, or do you have time for lunch? So you make sure you have that rapport build up, and at least try to have a face-to-face if you can. So those are some things I would advise. And on the other side, what was the...
So last, what is the help that we can do to you as an ITS?
So when I saw your email, you said NIT brand, So I was looking at my Facebook, and one of my cousins, he's from IIT, and his mom had posted a clip. It was a 60-minute clip. You know what it said? You can actually probably look at that 60-minute clip. It basically talks about IIT, how powerful IIT is. Most of US organizations are run by IITians. And they talk about Narayan Murthy, they talk about Khosla and how they have built the thing. And what I looked there was they talk about 2% of the folks in India get into IIT. And people who cannot get into IIT, they get scholarship in Harvard. So you can imagine what is happening, how much the brand awareness has created all over the world. I know recruiters in this country who will, if you are from an IIT, your profile is separated than the rest of them. If you are in a technology sector, I mean business-wise, they look at, of course, along with the IIT, IIM, and you have the Harvards and the Wharton schools, but it's all rest of the world. So talking about what we should do or what we should do is we should create the NIT brand very, very strong. And I think everybody agrees that we need to build that. And how do you build it? We are all here to build it, right? We either hire people whom we know. Initially, we don't know somebody. You are all on my network. So tomorrow, you are all on my network. I have helped actually a couple of guys just in the last few months get hired into the company where I consult because I knew the value they could bring in. So you basically build slowly, but if you have the brand, so this company was looking for somebody like in IIT. So I said, hey, this person is not an IIT guy, but I know he's as good or better being an IT guy. And they interviewed, and the guy, actually the owner of one of the founders is an IIT guy. So he was very picky on that, but he interviewed and this guy got hired. So basically branding is very important. Like he mentioned personal branding. You mentioned about personal branding. Also, when you create your own brand, if I meet you, in 30 seconds you should tell me, it's your elevator speech. You should tell me what you can do. So, I mean, I'm an NIT guy with this, that doesn't help, you know. You can say, okay, what do I do? I solve problems. If you ask me what is my elevator speech, I help company grow from X to Y. That's my core strength. But behind that, there is a lot of strategy, there's marketing, there's business development. So all that is followed through, you know. But core 30-second message, when you meet somebody, it's called the elevator speech because typically when you hit the button to go up, you meet, say, the vice president or president of a company. You say hello. You know, how many of you say hello in an elevator to strange people? Not many, right? But start saying that. What will happen? You will feel good, the other person will feel good, and maybe tomorrow they call you for an interview and they know you said hello. So branding yourself is very important, and branding of NIT is definitely the key here. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Sridhar Krishnamurthy. By the way, Sridhar Krishnamurthy is a NIT Surathkal alumni. He founded Cineta Networks that was sold to INET. Later it was acquired by Tektronix. He holds multiple patents in high-tech industry. Now let us hear from Vivek Kalra, Vice President of Tech Mahindra. You have experience of working in US as well as in India. Could you please give insights on how we should build strong professional network in India and in US also? Also, is there any difference in networking with folks in India versus with USA folks?
Well, if you look at generally what you look at is people, and people do business with people. So you may have any amount of technology, you may have any amount of LinkedIn contacts, or you could have LinkedIn contacts are also because you're meeting people. So I would say the biggest strength of anybody is how can you really engage at the people level. So Facebook, you may have 500 friends, 1,000 friends, or 1,500 friends, but if you're not in constantly touch with them, as Shridhar said, you need to really keep pinging them. And in today's environment, when you're really working so hard and you're really not getting time, the whole quality is how can you really go back and start pinging people with each other. So whether it is India, Europe, or any parts of the world, actually the characteristics remain the same. I don't think anything will really differ. So from that perspective, I think the whole purpose is that how you can connect, what can you really add value to the other person, and if you are able to really look at how will you add value to the other and not really look at being selfish that how he will add value back into you, you will really be able to get the value back from whatever you are looking at.
Okay. So thank you, Vivek Kalra. Vivek is a NIT Allahabad alumni. Vivek is a highly accomplished sales leader. Now I will open up the questions to all the NIT attendees. So please come forward and ask questions so that like we can record you and you get a lot of visibility.
Brand is being made.
So now, please come here and so that like, we can record you. So whoever wants to talk, like please stand there and we can come quickly.
So I have a question for panelists,
Yeah.
that as entrepreneur we work hard and we leverage others' help and then we become successful. How as a successful entrepreneurs we can cultivate that environment and bring more entrepreneurs and make them successful?
I think from a branding perspective, that's the most why IIT as a brand. It's not because they're like us. We are as smart as IIT. Right? I don't see a difference between NIT and but they have treated that because they've created a lot of good things in the world globally. So it's nothing to do with the IIT. I mean, it's about what you do, what you create. That's what gives you brand. Because any brand, you have to have a product to get a brand. That product has to be good. So that's the most important thing. So I think that's where we need to focus. We need to create people building, companies or being very successful. That's how you create an NIT brand. I think, that's how I would say like Ram was suggesting. How do we create more entrepreneurs? How do you create people who can build companies or grow up in companies so that's where I think our brand should be created. Not just because we are NITians, we should have a brand. I don't think we can do that successfully. We should create brand through success. By success is nothing but having a good product. So we should have a good product, to really build a brand.
So also I would like to add, see Kanwal Reki, who is from IIT. So it took him almost 10 years to get visibility within US. Okay, so he had a successful IPO in late 80s, and he has been knocking the media from 90s. Okay, we have IIT, we are very talented people. Nobody cared in US. And what happened is the CBS 60 Minutes director, she watched a movie by the name like Monsoon Wedding. In that there is a character who studies in IIT. Only then she started recognizing, okay, this IIT looks to be something unique. So the very next day she calls Kanwal and says that, okay, she's going to send her team to India. Please help us in communicating with IIT folks in India. So that's how like the 60 minutes program has evolved. And I did interact with Kanwal, and he was saying, yeah, it's a long term, it takes 10 years. And again, I will bring back the original point. IITs and NITs, very few entrepreneurs are there. But just the media creates more buzz about these people. Very few entrepreneurs are there from these schools. Okay, even in US also, very few people are there. A lot of entrepreneurs are from non-NITs and non-IITs, but they don't get visibility. Even in NITs, there are a lot of successful people. How many of you have watched a 60 minutes program from one of the NIT guy, like NIT Trichy? His name is Shridhar. He was interviewed. And how many of you know? But yeah, everyone talks about IIT, but he was an NIT Trichy guy. So he was interviewed, and he got a lot of publicity. But very few NIT people know about it because we haven't formed a alumni group where we interact and exchange the success stories. There are a lot of successful NITians. So
Sridhar, as this comes along, as we come along as a group, to answer his question about how do we bring in more entrepreneurs, is to create an umbrella of successful entrepreneurs to become a sounding board for, maybe this forum becomes an active area where somebody comes and presents a business plan, get some feedback, use them as sounding board, mentors,
that's exactly I was going to
coaches to help them go forward. And also maybe there are people that are with deep pockets within our NIT alumni. That can be an angel investor or a venture capitalist, or even microfunding is becoming a phenomenon nowadays. With all the little money that NITs alumni can offer, maybe that an entrepreneur can come up. So that could be a thing that we can focus on as a group as we gather critical mass, is to form the special interest groups. Entrepreneurship is one, strategy and leadership could be another one, microfunding, even things like social service aspects of it could be another group. That actually would be a complete circle around this.
So
yeah, thanks for bringing up that point.
Yeah, to add to his point.
Just one. We recently announced in our Bay Area events about creating a NIT Venture Fund. So folks who are interested in investing in any of the companies, they can come forward, and we are planning to start the fund with $100,000. If anyone of you are interested in being part of that fund, you are welcome to contact us. So Ram Shastri, who is from NIT Surathkal, he'll be heading the fund.
So to add to that, to answer your question, one of the things which I do is, I have a lot of, I call them kids, when they're like just fresh out of grad school, or they come to me and say, I have this business idea, I have this idea. So I said, have you looked at a plan? Have you put a business plan? Or they say, I don't know what is a business plan. So okay, so what is the next step? So I said, okay, if you are interested, just tell me, can you tell me what your idea is? Because a lot of times you keep it very close to your chest, nothing will happen. You have to open up. So if somebody comes and says, hey, I have a business, I have an idea, I'm thinking this area is good, so how could you help? So one of the things I do is I become, they can say, okay, you become my advisor, or you become my mentor. So there are different ways to skin the cat then. If you're an advisor, you can be an advisor from a strategic point of view, or business plan. Okay, you want a business plan done, okay, let me help you put it together. And since I have had the experience of raising venture capital money and friends and family money, there are certain qualifiers required. So how do you do that? So if you come to me with an idea, I can tell you, based on my success and my failures. I don't call them success or failures, I just call them Kodak moments or Melak's moments. So it's life is up and down, right? One day you feel great, the other day you feel down the trench. So that's how I call it. So I said, hey, let's sit together, I'll tell you, this is the guideline. I in fact share my ideas and tell them this is how you need to put up. And I have been fortunate to have advised a couple of companies in the past, and they have been pretty successful, and they are still growing. So it's all how you approach somebody and how you want to engage them. So in fact, when I started my first company, Ram Rai was one of my advisors, and he had so much confidence in me. He put his own dollar. I mean, not a dollar, but he put quite a substantial amount of money. So, and then he advised, actually I still remember the day we were having a puja, being Hindus, and also we had the Pandit come in and bless it. He came in, and then we discussed. I said, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm going to the valley. I went to the valley. There is a restaurant, Peacock or Mayuri or something, where you go and pitch. So I did all that and came back. There were a lot of buzz about raising fund there. And then he said, Shridhar, why do you go all the way there? I know some folks here. Why don't you talk? So he introduced me to some venture capitalists. So that's how you do it, and then there were other people. For example, I still recall this gentleman. He is now the president of AMX. I don't know how many of you know. There's a company called AMX, a $1 billion company. It's on Tollway and 75 in that corner area. Juniper Network, no, not Juniper. What is that? Cisco is there in that area. So he was my Jupiter, yeah. So he was my first advisor, and there was another gentleman. He was general manager for Nortel. So these two guys, even when we got the money from venture capitalists, we talked to them before even signing the paper. Because two of us who started the company, two founders, we had certain idea about the technology, the business aspect, but we didn't have much idea of how to deal with money. The checks, what needs to be seen in the term sheet, that's what they call it when they say, okay, we want to invest $3 million, you give us X percentage of the company, and this is what are the points which will monitor you. So we had to go through that. In fact, one of the venture capitalists wanted to bring in his own CEO. So one of the advisors said, let's interview the CEO. So I made sure, not only did we interview, we got them also involved. So what happens is, you have I won't say virtual network, but it's a kind of an invisible bigger team who will advise you. And for that you have to, it's all a give and take. You get some stocks in return, or you give them some stock in return. So you do something like that. And you have to recognize that it's a value. They are their time is also valuable. So you have to come up with something, and there are a lot of times where you do it for the purpose of doing it. I normally, when somebody comes to me and says, hey, this is what is, I tell them, hey, these are the steps you need to do, and have you formed a team? So those are some of the things which you start up with. So I hope I answered some of your questions.
No, definitely.
Oh, thank you.
So who has next question?
Now you all have briefly touched upon the value of getting hired by somebody you know and moving up in the organization, that aspect. But I know that being an entrepreneur is probably a little bit more challenging than getting hired. So what are some of the things that entrepreneurs must have in that aspect as to when you're networking? How are you gonna make sure that your ideas are being heard and whether it is going to be successful? What are some of the things that they should be aware of?
So you said entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean,
inside the company,
right?
You're
I
talking
mean, how
about
are the challenges different from an entrepreneur when they're trying to network versus getting a job? I know that getting a job is also challenging, but I'm sure being an entrepreneur is more challenging.
No, you're talking about entrepreneur or intrapreneur. There are two. So entrepreneur is outside. Intrapreneur is inside a corporation. Inside a corporation, you can be an intrapreneur, and there are corporate umbrellas inside. They want to inculcate some new ideas. So they have, in fact, in
I think
Nortel
he's asking the difference between how you network.
so your question is entrepreneur versus
Yeah, let's say you're trying
career.
to start something.
Okay.
Maybe it's your own idea, or you're trying to build upon somebody else's idea as a team. But how should you be your approach as to being successful? Getting a job is also challenging, but it's not as difficult as starting and running a company or a business. So what are some of the qualities or some of the things that you're doing when you're trying to network for developing a company?
So I'll take the first shot and then you can continue. So you probably know, if you're a software guy or an engineer, normally we all know there's a cycle, right? Software life cycle, product life cycle, service life cycle. So in this also, in your life you have a life cycle. If you're married, you've got a young kid, your wife doesn't work, you are the only breadwinner. So then you're taking major risk there, right? So how can you, when you start a company, it is painful. It is very painful because you have to focus 100% of your energies. And if you're working somewhere and doing that, it'll basically drain you very much. So what you do is either you save some, you do something on the weekends and slowly get some help from others, build a small core team and start doing it. But make sure you have enough money for, say, 6 months to 1 year of your own to support your family, because family comes first, whatever it is. You're doing whatever you're doing for your family. That's what I mean, that's my way of looking at it. So do that and then work on it. In that 6 months to 1 year will give you enough confidence in building something. And I'll tell you from my experience, if you have passion, you can do it. I mean, nothing is impossible. I mean, I may be sounding too this, but you will overcome. There are a lot of people who help you. You will get help from different sources. So, but the question is, are you ready to start, when I talk about the cycle, are you ready to start with 2 kids or 1 kid who is just a baby and your wife? So you have to get a buy-in from her. Your wife will be the first buy-in. She has to approve, yeah. Is she ready to go on this cycle? Which is very tough, You'll be working crazy hours and it is a point where you forget there is another life, the wife and your kid. So later on, for example, I started when I had 2 kids and my wife fortunately worked. And so I told her this is what I want to do and I'm at this point of my life. If I don't do it, she actually said, Sridhar, you need to do it now, or if you do it later on, you have to wait till the kids are in college. So now so between that and now, my kids right now, my son is in Northwestern, my daughter is getting ready there. So once my daughter is also out, I can concentrate on another takeoff, right? So that's how I look at it in a different, where in the life you are. Or if you know somebody who becomes a friend or somebody who is wealthy enough to believe in you and invest in you, make sure you put the terms. And when you take money, you have to be very careful. They are putting trust in you, and you want to make sure when you get some money from your friends and families, you don't spoil relationships. So I would not take it from immediate relatives, because then my aunt was saying, hey Shridhar, you started a company, I'm ready to invest. So there are two things. One is they have to be a net worth of certain amount to be an investor, because the risks are very high. The other thing is emotional angle. Oh, I invested, auntie. This Nisha auntie calling, Sridhar, where's my? Oh, I gave you $25,000. What is happening? Has it grown? They won't understand the whole thing, right? So make sure those things are covered. But my point is, you should know where in life you are in. Are you ready to take off? Are you willing to make sure that your partner, life partner, and the kid, everybody is comfortable with what you are taking the steps? So.
Well, I think the whole idea is that if you are working in an area, again you can move from one job to another job, or a lot of people here say we are lazy. It's not a question of lazy, it's that they are very happy. They are very happy for what they are doing. It's all what you want to achieve. You have to set goals, and if you are setting your goals regularly and you have to refine your goals as you move forward, as you meet your goals, you have to refine your goals. And whether you're in a professional career or you are starting your own business, you need to really keep changing your goals as you move forward and keep building on the network.
To add to that, to me, there is no difference between being an entrepreneur versus being a career-oriented person. As I said earlier, I work for myself, Bhaskar, Rayavaram, Incorporated. And that means even if I'm working for an employer, I go out there looking like they are my customer. I got to deliver value for 8 hours of the day. What's my finance department doing, meaning how much money I'm making? What's my marketing department doing, meaning how much branding I'm doing, how I'm selling myself? So things like that. If you orient yourself being a company, no matter what you do, no matter what service you offer or you're making a product, maybe the challenges are different, but the way you network, the way you need the aspects of it are the same. Fundamentally, you got to be out there promoting yourself. In the case of an entrepreneur, you're promoting the idea of yours, and then there you are wearing multiple hats at the same time if you don't have a big team with you. But in case of a career, unless you wear that hat, you actually have to switch your thinking to position yourself saying, I'm working for myself. I don't really work for Hudson, even though I say I'm employed there right now. But to me, I'm working for myself. Still, at this point, I'm rendering my services to this customer. So that's to me, those are the two final differences. But aspects are still the same.
If I can add one statement, we're all engineers. We're all engineers here, right? I find that there are two areas that we lack, right? One is sales, right? We're always hesitant. We're not that gung-ho and we can't go and sell. Selling is a critical key aspect that you can learn as you're working at the company right now, right? And the second thing is really understanding cash flow management, right? There's balance sheet, income sheet, but as you start a company, it's all about cash flow, right? You may get enough cash, but if you don't get it at the right time, you're bankrupt, right? So those are the two skills. Sales and marketing is key, right? Because we all know product and technology, right? What we don't know is sales, how to sell. Absolutely the key, right? And the second thing is cash flow. So try to develop those two. Try to understand, in the company you are in right now, try to understand those two aspects. I know it's not in the comfort zone. Go out and seek that. Go out within your company and say, hey, I don't understand. Go to your CFO organization and say, I don't understand anything but cash flow. Can you train me? Can you mentor me? Right? Or go to a sales organization. I want to sell with you. Right? I want to help you out. I don't want to be burdened for you. I want to help you. Right? As you're selling into GE or whoever they're selling into. Learn those. Those two will immensely help you.
So go in the parking lot and see which car is the most expensive one. The sales guys will have that.
There is a good saying, guys who have been successful in India, they had love marriages because they had to sell themselves to the other half.
Can I add one point?
Yeah, so can you stand? You can stand here, it's fine.
My name is Surathkal. I'm coming from Abu Dhabi, actually attending one of the conferences here. Solely for 3 days. It's a Mechanical Engineering Association conference, and it's coincided with that NIT is trying to branch, as well as ASME, as Association of Mechanical Engineers, they are also trying to branch out in different aspects. As you see that it's a complex process, you already mentioned about that. One thing which I think that probably, of course, everybody is busy on their own activities. Our objective, one of the objectives is to brand NITs, probably voluntary organizations if we can develop within the group, so that they are maybe for a certain period of time and how you think that their role is to have some sort of activities on a regular basis or whatever it may be, so that it comes on.
Yeah, I mean,
It should be a structured.
Yes, definitely. He actually is the brand manager for the entire NIT, and he came from Bay Area. So this is our first meet here.
Okay.
So one of the things we are going to do is we're going to have smaller sessions, smaller groups, and what you are saying is what we are developing.
So it's on
yeah,
the way.
yeah. So this is the first time. Actually, you're fortunate you are here, and thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you very much.
Again,
for
like
that.
I came from California.
Yeah.
He came from
Abu Dhabi.
Please give him a big applause.
Also on 15th of April, we are going to have this all NITians meeting in Abu Dhabi. Hopefully you have seen that.
Did you get anything for it from Abu Dhabi?
Greetings from all.
Oil will be good, right?
And thank you very much. I'm sorry I have to take a short break.
Are you leaving?
Tomorrow,
I have one point to make here. In terms of our NIT branding, we should involve the local media in some form as we grow. Like Dallas Morning News or somebody like that, involve them to give identifying distinguished NITians like Shridhar from Bloom Energy, like that. Whoever is the local area, who are the people who have identified themselves, and they use the local media to advertise ourselves as their NITian alumni. So that way, it will give the branding locally.
In fact, it's
Before
quite a
it goes
transaction, right?
before it goes national.
Each and every one of this is a transaction.
Yeah.
Create transactions through the local media.
So use the media in a big way. So we are planning to invite some of the media channels to cover our NIT events in Bay Area.
We have friends from TV9 here. So.
So do we have a website or some place for just for NIT which gets connected to all the?
Yeah, so we are in the process of developing. I'll be sending an invitation for you to join a LinkedIn group. Please join that group. Okay? And then we will create a subgroup. Okay? So, sorry, please try.
All right. I have a two-part question, and you sort of touched on this subject already, but the first one is to you, Rob. We spoke about entrepreneurship and what it takes to be successful at that. You have a good idea, there's funding, there's execution. So one thing that I would like to hear is when you started IPCell, how did you go about when you had the idea? How did the funding process go through? And because at that point, I suppose you really didn't have the network. How did you go about having the network? How did you go about raising the funds? And the second part of the question is to you, Shridhar, is that in the introduction, it was mentioned that you own a lot of patents were filed against your name. That patenting process didn't happen prior to you starting your businesses or after? And if it is prior, did that help in the process of building your business? How important or integral it is to have those intellectual property things taken care of before you embark on a journey? So those two.
So IPCell, I can talk about IPCell. So we were playing engineers. We were not running any companies. I was doing some development, testing, and my partners, regular guys, very regular guys. So three of us, we decided, okay, we want to start. We didn't have any money. My wife was pregnant, and it was a tough choice for me. And we were living in an apartment. So we had $5,000. Each one of us said, let's put $5,000. So we invested $15,000 in the company, and we luckily. So to answer your question, you should have something when you start. Clear either a project or you're solving some clear problem where somebody will buy your idea. So you have to have that thing. You cannot just. I have this great idea, I just want to go and build something and then we'll see if I can get a customer. You don't want to do that, especially in this world, in current economic situation. So we were at NEC, so we got a project from NEC. So we started the NEC, so for first 12, I think 15 months we did a project. We raised about $2 million revenue out of that project. So we had about 80 engineers in the US, including Shankar and a few other guys. So then we decided, '98, we decided that we want to get into a product. So we earned a lot of money, and we made good profit. So we had some money already in the company. So we decided to do some prototype as we are doing projects. So we are getting revenue in the company. So we didn't have to go out and raise money. So use that profit to actually build a prototype, and we went out and did a lot of marketing. We went out to shows. So we built one of the first soft switch, technologically. I don't want to get into too much technology, but we built one of the, we were the first innovators in voice over IP. We built one of the first soft switch in the industry. So which was very difficult to show it to somebody and say, hey, buy our product, because Nortel, Alcatel, they were having all this huge infrastructure and all that. So, but Cisco got very interested because Cisco said, they were trying to do IP, voice over IP and all that. So they liked our product, and they were compared with a lot of other vendors and all that. So you need some luck too. In doing entrepreneurship, hard work is very important, passion is important. Eventually you need luck, you need some good breaks. So we got some good breaks along the way. So in the process of the first 18 months, we almost shut down twice, because we lost the project. We didn't have money, right? I mean, we are not rich. We didn't have any rich people supporting us. So NAC, we lost phase 2 of one project, so we didn't know what to do. So they gave us for 2 months, and we will pay you for 2 months. They paid us some amount. And luckily, another company funded us for another project. So we survived. So we got lucky breaks along the way. And we worked very hard, don't take me wrong. So we had some good ideas. Finally, we built this product. Cisco got interested. They funded us in '99. So we went from 3 to 8 to 150 before they acquired us in 2000. So key thing is, I think, a good idea which can be sold. That's very, very important as an entrepreneur. Any idea you come up with, make sure there is somebody can buy that. That's very critical. I mean, we all get excited about, okay, I want to do this, I want to build this application, and maybe somebody will buy. No. I mean, you should do some market research first. Make sure there is a market where you can go and sell, make money, because then only you can get funding. Then you can come to anybody, right? Any entrepreneur, and say, hey, I have this great idea, I'm going to make money like this. This is how much I'm going to make. Then you can sell that, like what Srini was saying. You can. How do you sell? You sell saying that I'm going to make money out of this idea. Then only somebody will put money into the company. So it's passion, commitment. Don't give up. You cannot give up as an entrepreneur. Because company is not doing well, you cannot just let's join some company. Then you can lose the opportunity. So you have to fight it. If you have a good idea, if you are passionate about what you're doing, so you cannot think that I'm going to make $1 billion out of this company and try to do something. Then you cannot never be successful. So follow your passion always as an entrepreneur. You can be very successful. Work hard.
That's your luck, right? So luck is basically you create by working harder and harder. You create that luck. So he was being humble.
That's true, right? Your parents, parents tell us always, you work hard. Hard work always pays. It may take longer time, but you have to have patience. Keep doing it. But be honest. Work hard, and you'll be successful.
And I would add to that your partners should be very good. When you select your core team, when we started the first company, it was December of 1999, and 3 of us met. Actually, there was one more gentleman. He was interested in joining. So we all gathered, and we had my wife was making masala dosa. This guy is a Caucasian guy. He's now in New Zealand. And we two were Indians, and we were having a chat, and he said, hey, I'm going through some problems. My girlfriend is not cooperating with me, and this and that. So he was very nice to have told us upfront that, hey, I'm backing off here, So you have to have a heart-to-heart talk, because this is a commitment. You're not talking 1 or 2 months. 1 or 2 months goes like that. We're talking at least 12 months. And in that period also, in my case, my partner, his wife got pregnant, and he said, I don't know what to do. I don't have insurance and all. So let's quit, he was saying. So I said, no, I have full stake in this. I have left my good career, I have started this, and I have committed to certain of my friends who have invested in this idea. We need to go. So these things will happen a little bit, but you have to have a core team which will, you walk through the whole entire process from day 1 through maybe 365 days and figure out, there'll be chunks where you say you put a plan, right? You do your due diligence whether the product or service you're doing is solving somebody's problem, right? That's like Ram was saying, it has to solve somebody's problem. Otherwise your idea is idea, there are brilliant ideas, but what are you in for? You want to make some money, right? If that is a goal, or if you just want to create something, fine, you can create. Going back to your question about patents, there are two types of patents. I don't know how much you're aware. There's a provisional patent and then there's a utility patent. So when you start off, you have some great ideas. You want to make sure when you go to somebody, say for example, a customer or a venture capitalist will never agree on signing any non-disclosures, which means that they have every right to take your idea and they will forward it. They will forward it to somebody else. Okay, they'll have their own pet teams who they'll send it to and say evaluate this and that. But when you go to a customer, or customers are also very smart, right? They also want to incorporate certain things. So if you have an idea, to put a utility patent and get it, it takes a long time. Putting a provisional patent is as easy as taking a flowchart with your key idea and defining things and going to the USPTO site and applying there. So what that gives you is it gives you a 12-month window. When you file, say April 1st, you file your patent, you had some idea, so you file a provisional patent. So what that gives you is you created this whole package which you want to go and raise money or talk to customers. Because one of the things venture capital will say is, do you have a customer? So you can say, yeah, somebody's interested or somebody's already doing a trial. So before you go to that level, if you have a provisional patent defined, then you are covered to a certain extent. So what that gives you is when you put a provisional patent, maybe for less than $500, you can do that. So 1 year, you have that window. So in that window, you can go drill deeper and deeper and define the utility patents. So the provisional patent is saying, okay, it is a social network, blah, 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 but it does in mobile, it uses mobile, but it will use the pulse technology or whatever, laser technology to do interconnection between things, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you're not going into details of the algorithm, the masala, the secret sauce, what they call it. So that part, you leave it to the next stage, which is the utility patent. Utility patent, if you say file it, say in November, utility patent is where you need some real law firm to do their due diligence. So you have to basically go deeper into the patent office, research and see if somebody has created something else. So what will happen is if you have an umbrella patent at the provisional level, you go into the utility, in that utility you have say 30, 40 claims saying that this is unique, this is unique, this is unique. Out of that, when they do the search, you may end up with only having 5 claims. But at least you get 5 claims of that utility. But what is giving you, what gives you, if you do the provisional is, will give you the April 1st date. So you've got a lead in the market. And when you go to somebody, you say, I have a patent pending technology. It may sound marketing, right? But it gives you a little bit of confidence that tomorrow somebody goes and does the same thing. If they become successful, sue them. That's what the lawyers do, right? Paul Allen has got a basket of, I would say basket, he's got a chest of patents which he goes after once Google and Apple do it. He goes after them and gets the money. So does that answer a little bit of your question?
So last question before we wrap up the panel discussion.
Yeah, I'm just thinking this, we're closing the time, what is there in the agenda, because I don't want people walking out. One thing I want to suggest is let us take out something from this meeting, let's form some office bearers or panel so they can take it to the next meeting. That's what I want to suggest.
Yes, so we will announce the
okay.
panel.
Yeah.
Any question? Anyone? Yeah. Can you come forward and ask the question?
It's not really a question, I just wanted to expand on something like this.
Yeah, it's okay, that's fine. And then we will wrap.
So I think you talked about the concept of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. So one of the things that typically happens with people that have come from our kind of background is we are very risk averse. We are taught from our childhood days, go after this goal, this is it, don't question too much, focus on that goal and just keep going. And what that does not teach you is to ask critical questions. And that's one of the things, as he was mentioning, when you're into a sales or marketing kind of a function, you cannot afford to be totally drawn to your own agenda. You have to look at the customer's agenda and you have to tweak your story around that agenda. So going back to that theme, so because of that risk-averse nature, it's not easy for everyone to go through that roller coaster ride that we just talked about. So one of the ways that, from my own experience, I can share with you is that if you are working as part of a large organization,
you can find mentors or key influencers within that organization. And you can take your idea and you can actually sell it to people that hold a lot of power and have decision-making abilities. And you can grow it through the same hard work, the same spirit, without as risky an approach of leaving your career and trying it with putting your family in a different spot. You can actually do it as part of an organization, and if you have the leadership abilities, you can actually achieve a lot of that satisfaction. You may not make as much money, but you will definitely get as much satisfaction of having created an organization. So that's another option for some of you that if you're thinking about radically different things.
So that's called spin-offs.
Exactly.
So if you start something inside, like Google, a lot of people, Google is very creative, right? They allow people to create, and if they have a great idea, they'll actually fund them. You go out and because sometimes the big organizations to take multiple ideas and drag it becomes a drag actually. So they spin it off and they can grow, and then they'll bring them in. That is called spin-in. So I think you guys went through a spin-in concept, right?
Exactly. If you can create value, and if you can show the cash flow that he was talking about, you will always find backers. That is the proven thing. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I have closing remarks. Networking is very simple. You should surround around giants. When you need help, you can stand on their shoulders and get their valuable help. And if you are narrow-minded, you will be surrounded by minnows. This is not useful. Celebrate success of your friends. Believe it or not, your friends will be celebrating your success. I thank all the panel members for giving valuable insights on networking. Please give them a big applause. So now